Hello, welcome everyone to today's launch webinar for iText 2.0, new standard for data-driven template-based PDF generation. I see a lot of you from all over the world who are able to join us today. I hope you have the same great weather as I'm having here in Belgium today. So, my name is Kenneth. I'll be your moderator today. I'm a technical product marketing manager at iText. And next to accommodating product releases, I'm focusing on durable developer relations and supporting content creation. A job I'm really excited about because I firmly believe that this community is what makes us strong. I'm pleased to introduce today's speaker, Erwin Buggenhout. Erwin is a product manager for iText Dito. And today he's going to show us how iText Dito 2.0 lets you create and manage PDF templates without coding knowledge, and how the new features in this release enables managing all your resources efficiently. Before I hand the mic over to Erwin, I'd like to share some practical information about today's webinar. First, today's webinar will be available on demand after the live session. You'll receive an email with a link. You can also access all past webinars on our website or our YouTube channel. Furthermore, we greatly appreciate your questions. So if you have any questions for Erwin, please feel free to send them through the questions tab in the webinar application. We'll be answering questions at the end of the session. And if we don't get to your question during today's webinar, we will sure to follow up afterwards via an email. And last, we'd like to encourage you to share today's webinar with your social networks using the iText Dito tag. For those of you who don't know iText, a short introduction. I'll keep it short because I believe Erwin has a lot to say. iText is a leading company in digital document automation. We have two product lines actually. iText 7 is our open source software library for Java and C#, and iText Ditto, which is our easy to use yet enterprise ready PDF template generator and the topic of today's webinar. iText has millions of customers in all verticals and sectors, including many of the Fortune 500 companies. So there is a big chance your last bank statement or festival ticket was an iText generated PDF. iText is not just an enabler for PDF, but also a big innovator. As a member of both the PDF Association and the ISO committee, iText is always at the forefront of innovation PDF. iText has been around for over 20 years and has a proven track record with a client list we are quite proud of. But now what you actually came from, and that is Erwin Buggenhout and his demo of iText Dito 2.0.
Okay, thanks for that introduction, Kenneth. So I was just wondering whether I can even remember my last concert ticket, but that's obviously
that's been a while.
Yeah, that's due to other reasons, of course. Okay, can I just apologize for some background noise that I have today here, working from the home office. People are basically drilling and working on the pavement here just in front of my house. So that's a little bit inconvenient today. I'm going to stop sharing my my video for a while, and so we can actually focus on the presentation. Maybe Kenneth, if you stop sharing your video as well, then we can zoom in full screen on the presentation. I'm not going to talk too much or use. I'm going to talk a lot, but I'm not going to use too many PowerPoint slides. To be honest, we want to let the applications shine, of course. So we want to spend most of our time in the actual application, but just a few slides here to kind of set the scene for you all. So as Kenneth already mentioned, iText Ditto is pretty much known for its developer tools. So there's this PDF library that we have been building upon and building and extending for more than 20 years now. And I think it's fair to say that basically everything imaginable in terms of generation of or manipulation of PDFs is possible using those developer tools. The only thing that or the only kind of condition that there is to be able to do fantastic things with that library is that you are a developer. And that's kind of a realization that led us a couple of years ago to start up something new, something else right next to those developer tools. And that's what we call our high convenience product line. And in that high convenience product line, we currently have two applications. So on the one hand, there's iText PDF to data, and then there's iText Ditto, which is in fact the exponent of the high convenience tools. Now, high convenience doesn't mean that these tools are not developer tools anymore. You will still need at least a couple of developers to work on some of the components in these tools, but they also contain components that can be used by non-developers, and that's what this is all about. Okay, so if you look at iText PDF to data, that's actually a PDF, a data extractor that starts from a PDF, uses a template to kind of lay over the PDF in question, the PDF that you feed to it, and then it extracts the data from it and stores that data in a, in a structured format. With iText Ditto, we use the same concepts, but it works the other way around. We start from structured data that you may have. We expect JSON data to be exact, and then we use a template to merge that data into into the blueprint of a document, so to speak. And then finally, there's an SDK that we use to generate PDFs, merging data and templates together. Okay, so schematically, this is what it looks like. So we start from data. We don't really collect the data. We expected the data in JSON format. When we have that JSON data available, we then use a template or create a template. We can design and manage templates with iText Ditto, and as I mentioned, these templates can create or can contain data binds, so placeholders for dynamic data to be merged in at runtime. But apart from that, it can do more. There's not only data binds, but also, for instance, conditional logic that you can define based on the data that you merge into the document template. Imagine that some pieces of content need to show up only provided that a certain condition is true. Like, for instance, that your customer is in the US, or that your customer is in Canada, something like that. Then you can build that conditional logic pointing to the fields that actually holds the country information. Yeah, that's true for layout. For content, but that's also true for layout. So you can also define conditional layout, like, for instance, show a number in red if it's negative, show it in black if it's positive. That sort of thing. Talking about layout. Obviously, to a template, there's more than just the content and the data that you merge into a template. Typically, templates also need to reflect your your company style, your branding, and so on and so forth. So it's quite important that the templates that you build are also very much in line with that, and that you consequently use those styles. Okay, so iText Ditto offers a lot of capabilities around managing style sheets, around managing images, around managing fonts, and so on and so forth. Okay, you'll see that later on when I actually demo the application. Obviously, the aim of the game is to produce PDFs, and once you have these PDFs, you can basically collect them from a file path. That's one option, or we can just produce a byte stream as the output of the process, and you have the PDF in bytes. Okay, it's an iText product, so that means that typically it's not used to generate the odd PDF or just a couple of PDFs per day. It's typically used to accommodate a need for high volumes of PDFs. Okay, so if you generate hundreds, thousands, maybe even millions of PDFs, then probably that's this could be a solution for you. Looking at the components in iText Ditto 2.0, there are actually 3 components now. In the past, if you're already using iText Ditto, then you are definitely familiar with the lower 2, with iText Ditto Editor on the one hand, and with the iText Ditto SDK. We sometimes refer to it as the API as well. So let me just first start with those 2. So the iText Ditto Editor is basically the place where you design your templates. It's what you see is what you get experience that runs in the browser, and you can run it locally if you want to. You can, in the past, you could even use it in our cloud if you wanted to. So all of those things are possible. Okay, so it's very straightforward, very easy. We kind of want to, you know, allow Microsoft Word users and people who are familiar with, for instance, content management systems to edit websites and so on and so forth. You know, that's the kind of people that we built this part of the application for. Of course, iText is always focused a little bit on developers, so we also allow you just to code a little bit in there, but it's in the first place targeted towards non-technical designers. Okay. Once you have those templates, you can actually use them to generate documents, and the generation of the documents, that's basically what happens on the SDK level. So that's where you produce the documents. In fact, it's a Java SDK that we produce, but we wrap it as a REST API, and we deploy it using Docker. Okay, so there's a Docker image available that contains that REST API, which is a wrapper, in fact, around the Java SDK. The Java SDK, that's something new also. The Java SDK, you were able to use that directly in the past. So we are abolishing that option, unfortunately. So the way to do it and the way forward is through the Docker image that you can pull, and then you can actually target the REST endpoints of the SDK. So that's that. Those are the 2 components that we already had and that we, of course, optimized in version 2.0. If you see the editor and you saw it before, you probably won't even recognize it anymore. We have given it a full makeover. But then, the component that really steals the show here is the new component, the iText Ditto Manager component. So the Manager component is actually, something like a control room experience and an administration experience on top of all of that, where you manage your templates. Not only your templates, but also everything that your templates need, and that's data. So you can manage data collections and data samples, but also these typical resources like fonts and images and style sheets. Those are all managed as well. All of the items that you manage on the manager level have version control, they have dependency control, they have permission control. Permissions in the sense that we now also have user roles and users that we define. So those users can have roles, and depending on those roles, they, for instance, have access to certain templates where they can edit them or maybe not even see them. Okay, just to make sure, to generate documents, you won't need to be known as a user in the system. It's just to edit the templates. That's what that user management is all about. Once you're happy with a version of a template, you can promote it along a promotion path that you can set up. So also that is part of that manager experience, where you may set up different SDK instances, one for development, one for UAT, for instance, one for production, and maybe there are other stages in between. Well, you can easily set up such a promotion path, add items to those to that promotion path, and then basically promote your templates along that path. Now, an interesting thing here is that everything that you can do through the graphical user interface of iText Ditto is also possible through its web API. So it comes with a very powerful web API that actually contains all of the endpoints that the graphical user interface is also using. Okay. So let me just get out of this PowerPoint and get into the actual application so I can show you a thing or two that the new application can do. So demo time. So this is what it looks like. So if you log into the application, you're known as a user, you log into the application, you immediately land on the template management part. But before we zoom into the actual templates, let me just give you an overview here on the different areas. So we have, it all starts with data. We sometimes call iText data our data-driven PDF document generator. So it all starts with data. So there's a place where you manage that data and manage the data collections and the data samples. That's in the data management portion. And then we have resources because, as I mentioned before, your templates probably need more than just data. They probably need images. They probably need some styling. They need some fonts and so on and so forth. That's what you manage in the resources part. And then there are some settings that basically define your your control room, that define your workspace where you keep those templates, where you can define users and give them security roles, where you define your instances and where you set up your promotion path. Yeah, and there's a couple of other things here. But let's start with data. So I'm just going to take you on a walk through the the step-by-step approach of building a new template in iText Data 2.0. So starting with the data, what you actually do is add a data collection by clicking the button over here. And so as I mentioned, JSON is what we use. We're thinking about adding a couple of other options here, but for now, it's for the MVP release, it's just going to be JSON. Okay. So let's give our data collection a name. We might as well call this demo data, for instance. There you go. And then we can select a file. That should be a JSON file, right? So let's go and find a JSON file that we can use for this purpose. And that could be, for instance, this contract.json file. So let's do this. We selected the JSON file. It's uploaded. You can see it right here. And when we hit create, we actually create a data collection. So the data collection, the data structure is already visible here in the back. As you can see, it's a collection of fields that we can then later on use to be mapped or to create data binds in the template that we associate with this data collection. But actually, the application is also asking us here to create a data sample if we want to. So the data sample is actually pretty handy if you want to preview the templates that you associate with this data collection. If you want to preview those with relevant data. So for instance, if you build conditions inside a template showing certain certain things, if a condition is true, not showing them if that condition is false, well, in that case, it's pretty handy to have multiple data samples, one where the condition is true, one where the condition is false, and then you can actually see whether your conditions really work. So okay, let's create that sample, and as you can see in the sample, we actually have field values for the different fields in the data collection. So let's give this sample a name. Let's call this like Astro sample, for instance. There you go. It's created. So we now have our data collection, and we have a first sample. If we want to, we can create a second sample and a third sample, and so on and so forth, as I mentioned. Okay. So nothing much in the version history tab, the permission tab, and the dependencies tab at this point. Those are things that will get data as we continue the process. Okay, we might want to create a template at this point, but first, let me just add some resources that we may also want to use in the template that we are about to create. And some resources, that means either images, fonts, or style sheets. Say that we want to upload an image to be used across our templates, we can actually do so by selecting a file from our local system, and then it will be available for use. I have this iText Ditto editor logo here, for instance, that I can maybe upload. I'll call this the editor logo. There you go. And let's create that that image. So as you can see, you see a preview of the image. It's now available. Once we create a template and we open it up with the editor, we will have an easy to use mechanism to kind of drag and drop this image right into the template that we're building. Okay, so let's add some more resources. Maybe a font. A font that we want to use, a special font. Let's go and select a font file. So let's have a look. I think I have a couple of those. So there's, for instance, this railway font that I can that I want to use here. So we just upload the font, and well, automatically iText Ditto kind of finds and selects selects the different files, TTF files, TrueType font files that are associated with the font faces that we support within iText Ditto. Yeah. So, for instance, if you would prefer to use the thin version or the light version rather than the regular version for your regular font face, you can change that. You can do so, but that's basically the only thing that you would have to do. Yeah. As you can see, the font is uploaded, and right now this font is available for all of the templates that we create. For those of you who already used iText Ditto in version 1, they probably remember that uploading or working with a custom font was not so easy. You actually had to upload the font files, the different font files in your Ditto packages, and then declare the font through and the different font faces through CSS. So that was a less fluent experience as what you can do in version 2.0. So we have added an image, we have added a font. Let's have a look at the different CSS styles that we have. So there's a style sheet over here, for instance, for a zebra stripe table. That's a table with alternating row colors. So we have that over here. That's maybe also a style that we can associate with the template that we're about to build. So those are basically a couple of resources that might come in handy as we start creating templates. Okay, let's add our template now. Call this the demo template. Seems like a good name for it. And then we can associate it with the data collection that we have just created. So I'm going to do that. Now it's associated. And then we can select a type, a template type. So in the earlier versions, we only had regular output templates in iText Ditto. What we have now is 4 types of templates. So we have header templates, we have footer templates, standard templates, and compositions. I'm going to show you a composition later on, but let me first talk about header and footer and standard templates. Header templates, pretty straightforward, I guess. Those are templates that you can use to fill up a repeating section at the top of every page of a document. Footer template, same thing, but then at the bottom of each page. And then you have a standard template. Standard template basically fills up the rest of the document, the real body of a document. So what are those compositions about? Well, in fact, compositions are puzzles that you can lay with header, footer, and standard templates that you defined previously. Yeah, so that means that you can reuse templates now. You can reuse your header template. For instance, if you have a corporate header, then you can just simply create that once and reuse it across all of your templates. Pretty handy because you don't have to redo, you don't even have to copy paste, but it's particularly handy if your corporate header, for instance, changes for some reason. Imagine that you win the Company of the Year award, and obviously you want to boast that achievement and you want to show that off. Well, then you can basically just update your corporate header with some kind of a logo that comes along with the award or so. And just by updating that header template, all of the compositions that make use of that header will automatically be updated to the version that has that award logo. Same thing, for instance, for a body fragment, your general terms, for instance. Of course, they're bound to change at one point. So yeah, just have it as have it as a reusable component. You just update or you just make the changes in that reusable component, and all of the compositions that use the component will be updated to the latest version of your general terms. So that's how compositions work. I'll demonstrate that to you later on during the demo, but for now, let's just create a standard template to keep things simple. Okay, so I selected standard. The only thing I have to do now is hit create, and this will open the new editor environment. Yeah, so for those of you familiar with the version 1.5 or to or 1 or 0 version of iText Ditto. This is the editor, so it looks completely different now. You still see the structure, the template elements tree, as it was called before, on the left-hand side that will be built up, where you can make selections that you will see on the canvas. There's still the toolbox over here with new capabilities, new tools that are in there, like for instance this table of contents thing. And the rest of the things that you could do are also, these things are also still there, but easier to use than ever before. So let's add a few things here. Some rich text in there. Maybe we can also, add that table of contents section. Why not? Maybe also include a table here, like a 2x2 table, and that's how you kind of continue to build up the template. As you saw me do that, you saw a lot of things appear here on the left-hand side. This helps me navigate easily from within the template. Of course, I can just select items within the canvas here as well. So you can also hide that structure to give some more space to the actual template if you want to as well. Okay, so this is how the toolbox works. You just put items from the toolbox into the actual canvas, and that's how you can continue to build your template. Okay, so say that we want to use that font that we had earlier, or that we created earlier. We can actually just select it over here. Just go to the fonts section, scroll down all the way where it says workspace font, and then you can basically just select the railway font that we uploaded. As you can see, now we have that railway font. Just to make sure that we have something in our table of contents here, what we can also do is turn this into heading 1, because this is going to work with the different heading levels that we have in the template. So basically, if I change this to heading 1, what I expect later on is that I will see my heading level, so that text thing here, that content will be shown here on the table of contents. Yep. There's a properties section over here where you can see the properties for the selected element. You can make that a little bit larger if you want to. So you select the table of contents right now. You can choose how many heading levels you want to show in your table of contents, what you want to use as a tab leader, page numbers, insert hyperlinks or not. So that would take you to the page where a certain title is. So that sort of thing can be set over here. If you select something else, if you select text, you will see different things, like you want to make this bold or italic and so on and so forth, character spacing, word spacing, alignment. So these things will show up depending on the type of element that you have selected. Okay, let's get some data in here. So you remember that we created this demo data collection with a default sample. So there's only one sample attached here. If I would have created multiple samples, you would see a list of different samples here, and then I would be able to choose from those samples. Automatically, if I would choose another sample, you would see different values here in the fields overview. Now, how do I get these fields into my actual template? Well, that's pretty straightforward. You actually select a field over here and you drag it and drop it in the position that you want to have it. Okay, so if you want to do that street as well, you can just drag it into this box, for instance. Okay, so that's not rocket science either to do that. If you want to do things pixel perfect, and for instance at cursor position, you want to add another field, well, you can do so as well. In that case, you just position the cursor where you want the field to go, and then you just click insert data bind, and that will allow you to do the same thing. Let's select the city here. So there you go. And then in cursor position, we insert the field in question. Yep. What else is there? Say that you insert this date, for instance. Let me just get this date in here in this box. So this date actually is formatted as a timestamp. So probably we don't want to format it that way in the actual document. Okay. So to fix that, we can actually select the data bind and take it to the properties panel, and then we can just easily format it as a date in this case. Okay, we can select the locale, we can choose which portion of the timestamp we want to show, the date only in this case, and we can choose a frequently used pattern for the locale that we have selected. Okay, if we select a different locale, we're going to see different things here. If you want to do something custom, you can still select custom and then kind of type your pattern yourself. Okay, so that's how you create data binds. That's how you kind of fill the template with data, how you lay it out. And then probably you want to use some resources as well, apart from the font that we already used. Yeah. Say that, for instance, we want to include that editor logo that we have just added to the manager environment. We can actually just pick it up from here and just drag it into the application. That's it. At least that's what I expect. So there it is. So that's basically how that works. Yeah. I'm aware that I'm creating a very weird template now, but I'm just showing off some of the capabilities here. Let me take it to style sheets, because maybe we want to use that zebra style, that those alternating row colors, that style on that table. Well, we can associate style sheets with this with this template. So we can embeds a style sheet and just start typing CSS right here, or we can basically use style sheets from the workspace, from the manager components, like this zebra stripe table. Yeah, so we can actually connect that zebra stripe table style sheet with this template, and then once we do that, we can actually just use it. So if I would select my table, so this is where the structure comes in very handy. So basically I can just select my table over here. You see it's selected in the canvas as well. And then I can just add a style over here. For the users of iText Ditto version 1, you would, in version 1, you can also apply styles, but there you actually have to type the style, the name of the style class that you want to use. And sometimes that's a little bit tricky if you don't know that CSS by heart. Right now, you just see a drop-down list here with the different style sheets that are connected. Those can be multiple style sheets as well, and then you can select one or more classes from that style sheet. So what we want to do here is select zebra, and immediately our table here gets that zebra style. Okay. So let's preview. At any point, you can preview your template. First of all, we save the changes, and then we are asked which sample we are going to use. You either select a sample over here, or you just can create some custom data on the fly as well if you want to showcase or to preview. That's the word I was looking for. Your template. You can show the content of the sample as well if you want to, and then you hit preview to see what it looks like. So this is what my template looks like right now. Okay, so not rocket science at all. Very straightforward, easy to use, and easy to build items into a template like that. Once you're happy with it, you can actually hit commit. If you do that, you're asked also to provide a comment. You can skip that if you want to, but I just will provide a comment here. Call this initial edit. There you go. Initial edit, that is, and then hit commit or commit and exit. If I click commit and exit, this will take me back to the manager environment, and I will now see my demo template. If I open it up, I'll see this, this thumbnail of what I have been cooking up so far. Okay, you can preview it from here as well, using the one or more of the samples as well. Okay, so we have talked about data, we have talked about resources, we have talked about standard templates, but let me now also create a composition for you. making use of some of the templates that are already in the system here. So let's add a template and call this composition. There you go. And instead of using the demo data that we uploaded now, I'm going to use this invoice data that's already here because I have a number of templates that make use of these this invoice data collection, which makes it a little bit easier to create that composition. So we want to create a composition, so that's what we're selecting here at the template type, and then we hit create. So instead of opening up the editor to start designing a template, we get the the composition wizard here inside the manager application. And that composition wizard allows us to pick up existing templates and add them to this particular composition. So for instance, we have an overview of all of our headers here in the system, and we can just basically pick up the header that we want to use and drag it into the header area of this template in question. Same thing for standard templates. By the way, you will not see all of the templates here. You'll only see the templates that are making use of the data collection that your composition is associated with, or templates that have no association with any data collection. So basically static templates, more or less. So we'll have a few of those. So we have this general terms. I think it's an interesting, kind of section to add to our invoice. The invoice table with the line items of the invoice, and then there's an invoice head. So probably you don't want to see them in this order. I guess the general terms should be at the back, and then the invoice head should be the first section of the actual invoice. So these general terms maybe should start on a new page. So that's also something that you can set over here. And let's then finally do the same thing for the footer. So I have this invoice footer over here. We can drag and drop that into the footer area. Okay, just save it. And you'll see that right now we have created this, this kind of composition that starts with the header, the corporate header here, that has the invoice head, that's this section, and then the invoice table, that's the next section. And if I were to preview it, we would see the terms and conditions on the next page, right? Maybe if we have time to actually do that, I'll create a template using, or I create a PDF using this using this template 3D SDK, and you'll see the full document then. Right, so maybe at some point you're totally happy with this composition or with this template, and you want to push it through to promotion, push it through to production or to any other stages in between. Well, for that we actually have this instance management part of iText Data Manager, where you can control multiple API or SDK instances if you want. So for instance, there's this development instance, and basically in that instance, that's basically where we deploy everything that we create for the first time. And then we can set up a promotion path with the different instances, different other instances that we have connected here to the manager component. How do you connect an instance? Well, you provide the API URL in here, you give it a name, and you hit connect, and that's basically how you connect an SDK instance with this, or to have it managed by this manager environment. The promotion path then is basically also something that has a wizard where you can easily kind of build your own promotion path, starting from development here, going to UAT, going to staging, and then finally going to production. Say if you want to add a stage, you can, for instance, add a pre-production stage here. There you go, save it. Obviously, a stage needs an instance. It cannot be empty, so let's add an instance. And I think we have this pre-production instance ready, so we can add it to that stage. So we can then save our promotion path, save it all the way through. There you go. And so now we have changed our promotion path. When we are happy with a certain version of a template, so say that demo composition that we have built earlier on, we can go to the version history panel of that template and promote it. Yeah, we can promote that version to the next stage the UAT stage. Okay, and if we're happy, it's tested in UAT, we're happy with it, we can promote it through to that staging environment, and then promote it through to pre-production. So that's the stage that we just added, and then finally all the way through to your production environment. Okay, where the SDK can then pick it up and use it. Okay, I'll try to show that later on in the session. Permissions, you can also say, for instance, that this demo composition should only be used by certain users. And for that, you can set up specific roles. So let me just go to the user list here. You see there's a couple of users in the system, and then security roles. By default, the system comes with 3 security roles: an administrator, global administrator, and template designer role. But you can also add custom roles, like for instance, a contract designer. Let's do that, contract designer. And contract designers can only design contracts, right? So let's hit next here, and let's indicate which permissions these people that have this role should have by default on all of the templates and all of the other items, the the resources and the samples and the data collections and so on. Okay, so you can set those permissions. But then on specific items, you can indicate that you need a certain role to be able to, to edit that template. Yeah. So say that we want to give the role that we just created permissions on this particular template, then we can do that by selecting the contract designer. Should have called it invoice designer really, but okay, this contract designer role. And then on this particular template also, we can also define specific permissions here. Okay. So right now, only people that have the contract designer role will be able to edit and work on this composition in question. That is those people and administrators. Administrators always have access to everything. What else do we see? We also see dependencies. So as you can see, we have the invoice data collection that has a dependency on this template, the corporate header. Sorry, I clicked it. Let's get back to where we were. So template management, and then that composition, and then dependencies. So the corporate header, the general terms, the invoice footer, invoice head, and the invoice table. So those templates and then that data collection, that's all connected. If we would have a look at the dependencies of the demo template that we created earlier on, then you'd see those fonts and images and style sheets, and then the data collection that we created during this session. Okay. We covered a lot, I think. Also, subscriptions is something that you can now manage. You probably saw the word unlimited here under the name of the workspace. Unlimited is actually a type of license that we have. If you would have a volume license, for instance, you would see here how many documents you still have left on your volume subscription. So that's also information that is then promoted and shown all the time. So that's that comes in handy as well. So yeah, that's about your license. You see when you have to renew it, and then you can just simply upload a new license file up here, and then that way you have kind of loaded the new license. You still have to load the license on the different SDK environments as well, though. So that's also an important thing to notice. And speaking of which, we could actually have a look at the SDK instances just to tie it all together. So basically, the SDK instance runs in a Docker container. So we have started our Docker container using running the 2.0 version of the SDK right here. And once we have done that, we can actually send requests to that endpoint. Okay, so I have this invoice composition template. Actually, I'm referring to the path here because this is a standalone SDK instance that I'm using here for the demo. But if you use one that is connected to your to a workspace, then basically the only thing you need to do is reference a template by its name. So invoice composition would be enough here. Then you pass some data. Obviously, the right way to do this is pass data that has the same structure as the data collection that you're using for this template. So we're passing the data, and then we define a path in this case. So basically, we define the path to the place where we will store the invoice, in this case, in question. Okay, so if we just send this request, then we are actually creating a template, creating a document using this template, and we, as a return, we see that we have created a 3-page PDF. And we also get some reporting information. Like, for instance, we see this template repair report that is checking whether something is wrong with the template that we have used for the document creation here in this case. And then there's also a PDF production report, because maybe everything is hunky-dory with the template, but something's wrong with the data that we sent. For instance, imagine that we want to create a QR code, and then we send a base64 blob that should be used to create an image as data to create that QR code, and then probably the system will get confused and throw an error in the PDF production report. But everything seems to be fine with this one, so we see that the highest severity of issues on those reports is null, so there are none. And we created this PDF, so we can actually have a look at it if we want to. So let me just open that one up. So in the PDFs folder, it was invoice 66. Let's have a look. There we go. If we open that one up, so basically this is the document that we have produced. You see the terms and conditions section here starting on a new page, and you see the table of contents where you have links to go to the next page. To go to the page where the title is actually showing up. Okay, so that is how that SDK works. So not much difference there. Obviously, I also mentioned in the beginning of the session that you can choose to, to produce PDFs and then return the file path or the file location. The path to the file. What you can also do is, get the actual bytes back. That's what we did here with this request. And as you can see in this request, we set a different header, a different accept header, saying that what we want to see here is the actual PDF bytes rather than star or JSON here, where you would get a JSON response to the call to the PDF producer endpoint. So if we look at the body of this call, what we're doing is we're targeting a different template here. We're passing data that's just the same thing, but there's more here. So we also have set some properties like the PDF version that we target. In this case, it's 2.0. We also support 1.7, and then some encryption parameters. You can set a password for the owner or the user, and then you can set encryption levels also. So if you would send this request, basically what you get back is the actual bytes of the PDF in question. Okay, so I guess that's what I wanted to show you today. I'm very happy to open it up for questions, or maybe if you want to, I can just real quickly run you through a summary of what we have been looking at. But I think it's more or less I think I more or less covered everything I wanted to cover with you guys. So maybe in the interest of time, let's just take it to Q&A. Or to Q&A. What do you think?
I'm popping in because I have been busy managing questions. There are a lot. I think you have been very thorough, but it's really interesting to see what the manager is actually adding. I see a lot of question about to handle the JSON files. Let's see. Andrea is asking, how do we connect the template to live data JSON?
So that's basically what I just probably that question came in a little bit earlier. That's what I showed in the last couple of minutes. So that's what you do through the SDK. Absolutely. So basically that's where you collect your JSON and send it to the PDF producer endpoint.
Okay. Arnie was asking if we can run the manager on-premise along with the SDK on-premise.
Yeah, so that's perfectly possible. So you run it in Docker containers, but you can choose where you deploy those containers, of course. Yeah, That's perfectly possible. So just to be absolutely clear, at this point there's no SaaS offering for iText Ditto, so we don't have it in the iText cloud or whatever. You just deploy it on your own premises or in your own private cloud environment.
Yeah. Okay. Another question from Arnie was, so your resources, can they be global, or do they have to be imported for every template? Especially
no, so
if they are part of a standard corporation header he's adding.
Yeah, so in terms of the use case for headers, so basically I think the intended approach here is that you create that header as a you know, as a header template within iText Ditto Manager, and then you can reuse the entire header across multiple templates. So if we're talking about then the actual resources that you are using, for instance, your corporate logo, that is probably part of that header. What we you know, what we actually do is manage it globally anyway. So it means that if you have a certain version that you create of that logo, and after a while you create a second version of it, so you update the actual resource, that update will be pushed to all of the templates and all of the other dependencies that that image resource has. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting to notice also, because that's that also goes, for instance, for your style sheets. So if you update style sheets, if you change style sheets, then all of the templates that make use of those style sheets will be updated based on the update of your style sheet. So that makes it also very easy to you know, apply little changes to the to the look and feel, not of just one template or one document, but all of the templates and ultimately also the documents that you are producing as a company. So if at some point there's a decision that a certain color should no longer be used or a new color should be added and so on and so forth, you can do that. You can actually just adjust the style sheets that you are using, and that will kind of promote that, you know, that new behavior or that new look and feel or style elements throughout all of the templates that make use of those style sheets. And so the same thing for images.
Yeah. Right. I think you covered a couple of questions people were having about the same topic. So that's okay. Good in the terms of the time we have left. And another question I'm getting, a group of questions actually, is if does Ditto Manager use relational database? If yes, which product? Another one is, can we use other sources than JSON files? Is this something you could expand on, Erwin?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we're looking at the database, so the database also runs in its own Docker container, and we ship that along with the solution. It's actually a Postgres database that we are using, but we just ship it along. So it's nothing to worry about. You don't have to set up your own database there. So that's okay. Then coming back to the other question that you had about the different types of data collections that you can set up. As I mentioned, the only type that we support at this point is JSON. That was also the case in iText Ditto version 1, by the way. But we're thinking of expanding that to other data types. So XML, for instance, is a very good candidate. But we are in the process of kind of defining how we are going to support it. So it's not yet clear when exactly that will be added to the solution, but it's definitely something that is on the table. So XML is one kind of train of thought there. Another one is setting up database connectors, where you could directly kind of connect to databases and then collect the data that you need for a certain template at runtime. So that's also a path that we're exploring. We're not sure at this point when exactly we will add that to the application, but it's something that is definitely also on the table.
All right, thank you for that feedback also. Another question I'm getting from Andrea, if you could expand a little bit on form elements. If you could get fillable forms in iText Ditto.
That's a very good question. We get that question a lot. There used to be a time where in the beginning of iText Ditto, we were able also to create what we call input templates. But we abolished that path, or we left that path at some time or at some point because it was kind of hindering us at some point. So we don't do fillable PDFs. So at this point, there are some form components that you can also kind of add to templates, like checkboxes and those things. But in the end, what you are producing is a static PDF. It's not a dynamic fillable PDF. So that's kind of important to know with iText Ditto, where we're very good at creating a final document, but not so much an in-between document that still needs to be filled out and so on and so forth. But it's definitely something that is still required from time to time, to create those fillable PDFs. But obviously, iText has other products that support that, of course. So in that case, I think it's good to check out what the developer library and its add-ons can do for you.
All right. Maybe for a less technical question is if iText Ditto can be tried for free.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are two options there. Either you deploy it on your own premises, and then we can give you a trial license for 30 days to kind of check it out and play around with it. So that's the first option. Second option is that you make use of one of the trials that we can set up and make available. Those trials are shorter because there's obviously a lot of people requesting those. They're pretty short. They're only 7 days, but it will give you that first kind of feel of what the application looks like or how you can handle it. So that kind of rids you of the task of deploying the Docker containers on your own premises, but it kind of limits you a little bit more in the time you have available to really try iText Ditto.
All right, thank you. Maybe we can do one more. I see we're almost at the 1 hour mark, so we have to wrap up eventually. If your question doesn't get answered, know that we will follow up by email. You can also watch this recording afterwards, so no worries about that. So one final question, Aaron?
Sure. Yeah, make it a good one.
So that's a lot of stress on me. The question was about the font file formats. Is there a limitation in what formats you can import?
There is. So basically, what we expect is either a zip file or an individual TTF file. So those are the file formats that we support. So we support true type fonts. That's basically it. Yeah. So that's kind of important. That's a good question actually, as were all the other ones, by the way.
Good to know. Yeah, let me say again, we really appreciate these questions because without them we don't have your feedback as well. So this works both ways. So yeah, as you can see on this last slide, if you want to schedule an individual demo to get a one-on-one with Erwin and get more information that maybe could apply to your product line. Schedule an individual demo through our product site. And if you want further news on us, you can always sign up for the newsletter on our website. And if you have extra questions, feel free to send them to our marketing@itextpdf.com address. So everyone, thanks for joining us today. And Aaron, thanks for this wonderful demo.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.